After the Great War of the Titanomachy, the world was a vast, empty stage waiting to be filled with life. Zeus, the new king of Olympus, summoned the two sons of the Titan Iapetus, Prometheus, whose name means foresight, and his brother Epimetheus, whose name means afterthought. Their task was monumental. They were to populate the earth with mortal creatures and bestow upon them the gifts necessary for survival. Epimetheus, impulsive and eager to please, begged his brother to let him distribute the qualities alone. Prometheus, trusting his sibling, agreed.
We must give them gifts, brother. Beauty for the defenseless, swiftness for the slow. Only then can they thrive.
Epimetheus began his work with enthusiasm, giving out strength to the lions, wings to the birds, and speed to the deer. He gave some creatures thick fur to withstand the cold, others sharp claws for defense, and others the ability to hide in the shadows. He was generous to a fault, emptying his bag of divine gifts until nothing was left. But when it came time to provide for the last creature, man, Epimetheus realized his terrible mistake. He had been so reckless with his distribution that he had left the human race completely naked, weak, and defenseless. Humans had no fur to keep them warm, no claws to hunt, and no wings to escape. In the eyes of nature, they were a failed experiment, destined to perish in the first winter. Prometheus arrived to inspect the work and was struck by the vulnerability of this new race. Unlike the animals, who walked on four legs and looked at the ground, Prometheus reshaped the humans to walk upright, looking toward the stars like the gods themselves. He saw a spark of potential in them, but he knew that posture alone wouldn't save them. Without a special advantage, his creations would soon be nothing more than bones in the dust. Prometheus knew that for humanity to flourish, they needed a formal relationship with the heavens. A great assembly was called at a place called Mecone to decide which parts of a sacrificed animal should be offered to the gods and which parts should be kept by mortals. Prometheus, the master of trickery, saw an opportunity to tilt the scales in favor of his creations. He slaughtered a massive ox and divided it into two distinct piles. In the first pile, he hid the succulent meat and the rich, nourishing entrails inside the animal's unattractive stomach, a sight that looked unappealing but contained everything valuable. In the second pile, he artfully arranged the bleached white bones, wrapping them in a thick, glistening layer of succulent-looking fat.
Wise choice, mortals. This savory fat is clearly the superior offering.
Zeus, the king of the gods, was invited to choose first. Looking upon the two piles, he reached out and claimed the shimmering heap of fat. When he peeled back the layer and discovered nothing but dry, useless bones, his fury shook the mountains. He had been publicly deceived by a Titan. As punishment for this insult, Zeus chose a cruel revenge. "Let them have their meat," Zeus thundered, "but let them eat it raw. I shall withhold the gift of fire from the wretched mortals forever." Suddenly, the world turned cold. Without fire, the nights became a terrifying wall of darkness. Humans huddled together in damp caves, shivering as the frost bit into their skin. They could not cook, they could not forge tools, and they could not ward off the predators that circled them in the shadows. Prometheus watched from above, his heart breaking as he saw his children fading into the cold. He knew that the only hope for human civilization was guarded behind the golden gates of Olympus, and he was the only one brave enough to steal it. The world was dying in the frost. Prometheus knew that Zeus would never relent. The king of the gods wanted humanity to remain a lowly, shivering race of servants. To save them, Prometheus would have to commit the ultimate act of high treason. In the dead of night, the Titan moved with the silence of a shadow. He bypassed the divine guards and reached the very source of the gods' power. Some say he approached the chariot of the sun as it rested. Others say he stole from the eternal forge of Hephaestus. In his hand, he carried a giant stalk of fennel, a plant with a dry, pithy center that could catch a spark and keep it smoldering for hours without being noticed. With a heart pounding like a drum, Prometheus captured a single, flickering ember of the divine fire. He hid the light within the hollow stalk and descended the slopes of Mount Olympus, a thief carrying the future of the world in a handful of wood. When he reached the earth, he gathered the elders of the human tribes. He touched the glowing fennel to a pile of dry leaves, and for the first time in history, the orange glow of the flame danced in a human eye. The impact was instantaneous and transformative. The fire was not just heat. It was the birth of techne, of art, craft, and technology. With fire, humans could forge bronze into tools and weapons. They could cook food to nourish their growing brains. They could light the darkest nights to tell stories and dream. From his golden throne on high, Zeus looked down at the world. He expected to see a dark, silent wasteland. Instead, he saw thousands of tiny, defiant points of light flickering across the valleys and plains. Smoke from 1,000 hearths rose into the atmosphere, smelling of iron and cooked meat. Zeus realized that his decree had been broken. The secret of the gods was now in the hands of mortals, and his fury was so great that the very foundations of Olympus groaned under his feet. Prometheus's triumph was short-lived. The fury of the king of the gods was absolute, but this time he did not unleash his lightning against men. Instead, he struck at the architect of their rebellion. Zeus ordered the immediate arrest of Prometheus, sending 3 implacable figures for the task: Kratos, Bia, and Hephaestus, the smith god. Hephaestus, though tasked with forging the chains, felt a deep sorrow. He admired Prometheus and shared his love for craftsmanship and ingenuity. However, Kratos and Bia knew no mercy. Under the stern gaze of these incarnations of Zeus's tyranny, they dragged the Titan to the edges of the world, to the frozen and desolate peaks of the Caucasus Mountains. There, where the wind roars with inhuman violence, Hephaestus was forced to perform his most painful work. With heavy hammer blows that echoed like thunder across the continent, Hephaestus forged shackles of an indestructible metal, adamantine. He drove a massive spike through Prometheus's chest, pinning him directly to the living rock of the mountain. Kratos mocked him as he chained him, reminding him that his love for men had led him to this miserable fate, and that no mortal could ever climb those heights to rescue him.
This cold is eternal, just like your punishment.
Prometheus did not scream or plead. He endured the pain of the spikes and the cold of the metal against his skin with a defiant silence. He knew that Zeus was trying to break his will, but his spirit remained free. Hephaestus finished the task with tears in his eyes and retreated, leaving the Titan alone in the vastness of the mountain range. However, the punishment was only beginning. Zeus did not just want to imprison him. He wanted every second of his eternity to be an unbearable agony. The true horror of Zeus's punishment was not the isolation or the cold, but the arrival of the dawn. As the first light of morning touched the peaks of the Caucasus, a shadow larger than any mortal bird fell across the chained Titan. Zeus had sent his personal emblem, a monstrous eagle with talons of iron and an insatiable hunger. The bird descended upon Prometheus, tearing through his skin to feast upon his liver. Because he was an immortal Titan, the pain did not grant him the mercy of death. He felt every sharp peck, every tear of his flesh, enduring a midday agony that would break the mind of any other being. When the sun finally set, the eagle would fly away, leaving Prometheus in a bloody silence. But there was no relief in the darkness. During the night, his divine body would slowly knit itself back together. His liver would regrow, cell by cell, perfectly whole, only so that the torture could begin again at sunrise. This was a cycle intended to last for eternity, a mechanical horror designed to force Prometheus to repent. Zeus often sent messengers like Hermes to offer the Titan a deal.
Prometheus, you must listen to reason. Tell me the prophecy, and this torment can end.
Prometheus held a secret. He knew a prophecy about which of Zeus's future children would eventually overthrow him. Zeus was desperate for this knowledge, promising to end the torture if Prometheus would only speak. But the Titan remained as immovable as the mountain itself. He chose the eagle's beak over the tyrant's mercy. He realized that as long as he suffered, he remained the one thing Zeus could never truly conquer. The story of Prometheus ends with a bittersweet reflection on the human condition. Prometheus became the eternal symbol of sacrifice, the forethinker who knew exactly what his gift would cost him and chose to pay the price anyway.